Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining this session today. I welcome everyone for the webinar on CEO Dashboards. We'll start with a quick introduction of everyone on the panel today. I'm Anumeha Gupta. I'm part of the sales team. We have Anurag Sangai, a director technology. He's been part of many successful implementations for Intellicus. And then we have Sagar Koti. He's a pre-sales expert, and he'll be walking us through the product demo today. Before we start, we'll be taking up all the questions in the end of the session today. You can write them down in the chat window. So we'll start with the presentation. Okay, so we'll start with a straight insight from Gartner, which is that 73% of the enterprise CEOs still lack real-time data visibility. They are drowning in fragmented dashboards. Critical information is scattered across cloud platforms and departmental silos, stale insights because of market shift. There is no single version of information or truth, and the leadership has to wait for insights and depend on the analyst or IT teams. In today's webinar, we'll be talking about how we solve all these problems for the leadership. I'll start with a brief company introduction, and we'll hand it over to Anurag to talk about the features and architecture of the platform. So Intellicus is an enterprise-grade BI and analytics platform designed for large-scale complex data environment. It is trusted across BFSI, insurance, retail, and manufacturing companies. And we've been in the analytics space for more than 2 decades now. We are working with 18,000 plus customer deployments across industry vertical. Some of the customers you can see here on your screen. Then if I talk about the offering, we have our own proprietary platform. And on top of that, we provide various services like data consultancy and end-to-end implementation services. And then we have round-the-clock support also available, which are available for post-production hand-holding if required. Now I'll invite Anurag to talk to you about the features and the architecture of the platform. Over to you, Anurag.
Thank you, Anumya. So Intellicus, we call it as a unified data engineering platform. Okay. So let me walk you through. So what's under the hood? So the most BI tools makes you stitch together 4 or 5 different products. Okay. Might be an ETL, a data prep, a visualization platform, or a reporting engine. So at the end of the day, we end up managing integrations, not the insights. Now, here what value Intellicus brings in. So Intellicus is different. So everything is built in here. So from data extraction to ETL, semantic modeling, dashboards, reporting, mobile BI, schedulers, alerting mechanism, ML-based forecasting, and even with the cutting edge conversational AI. So one platform handles everything. Okay, so that's the foundation. Now I'll show you how it comes together and how it creates value for an excos or a CEO. So if you look at the architecture here, so my different data sources, my data sources could come from an ERP or a CRM, HRMS, old warehouses, data lakes, supply chains, etc., etc. So every department that runs on their own tool. Okay? Finance uses one, sales might use another, operations might use another. Now, each of these have a different language altogether, okay? Different data structure, different refresh frequencies, different models, security rules, and even different KPIs definition. So a traditional BI tool or a traditional approach would be, okay, hey, let's just join the data together and find out what CEO needs and give them a consolidated view. But what problem it creates is that because the definitions are different, okay, or there are deduplicacies of data, at the end of the day, we kind of get into the pit where our values does not match. Okay, and there was our unified semantic layer that comes into the picture. Okay, that changes this overall problem statement fundamentally. Okay, so it brings a single source of truth for every matrix. And how it does so? By defining a unified KPI dictionary. So the business rules is defined at a single place, connecting to all the data so that we have a consistent definition. Same goes with the business rules. Even the security access or the user-based access is defined at the semantic layer, not to be defined at each source level, so that we can control which user is seeing what data. Alongside, we can create a unified data modeling or a storage of data if required. So rather than connecting at a real time, we can do a data storage in Intellicus as well. Over and above, we can add a flavor of AI and ML. So over the model and the data, we can do training, create machine learning models, do forecasting, what if analysis, and even do a conversational BI. We will elaborate more on this further in this slide and in the live demonstration as well. And with the multi-tenancy in place, even with a conglomerate or different departments or different entities in an organization, could be served by the single model or a single platform. So at the end of the day, what we get is an intelligent delivery for a CEO. So CEO gets a overall command and control center across verticals, across departments, across subsidiaries, everything unified. And this could also be cascaded to the next level executives, like a CFO can see the financial insights, a CEO can get the operational insights, etc. So from a unified view for a CEO to a department head, and then cascading it to the most granular, to the next granular level, to the lowest level, could be catered from the same model. So this is what I was mentioning. So how a CEO dashboard is at the top of the pyramid, but the same platform, the same semantic layer powers every leadership beneath it. So a CFO gets a financial grade view, a consolidated P&L, cash tracking, adjustments, reconciliations, etc. Similarly, an CEO get an operational intelligence, utilization of resources, supply chains, quality metrics, capex, opex, etc. So on and so forth. Okay? So each view is governed by a role-based access configured in the semantic layer. So the function head sees their domain, the group head sees everything. Now we just need to configure it once and it get enforced automatically. So there is no spreadsheet level permission required or an entity level relation or a permission required. So there is no data leakage risk as well. Now this is the capability I see genuinely changing how CEOs interact with their business. Now, if you see the screenshot here and the conversation, now a CEO can ask in plain English, that too in the business terms. For an example, why did our EBITDA margin fall 8% in quarter four? Okay. So now that's not a filter, not a search query. That's a proper business question. So the system understands the business ontologies and responds swiftly with three correlated drivers: that the input cost ups by 23%, my throughput is down by certain percentage, and the price increases. So it not only gives a pinpoint answer, it also connects the dots between finance, operations, commercials, and then gives the insights. You can do a follow-up questions like which region had the worst impact. You'll get a root cause analysis quickly. Okay, which region, what is the what factor impacted? Okay, and this response not just comes back in as a plain text or a blank text. What we get is an interactive, automated visualization chart. The best fit for the answer might be a GIS map, a cross tabular, a trend chart, etc. Okay, so from a natural language query to a cross data correlation, finding the root cause reasons, and getting an instant visual rendering with an auto insights. So here the auto insights again is very important, where not just the plain number or a graph. Now, what is derived, what business intelligence or insights is derived, even that is what system gives us. So that's enough on this slide, but I think we can quickly move to the live demonstration and see all of these in action. I'll request Sagar to share his screen.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Sagar. I work for pre-sales engineering of Intellicus. Thanks, Anurag and Anumeha, for giving a good heads up on the capabilities and the company overview. So today, in today's session, we'll be talking about the single source of truth with the intelligent insights inside the dashboards across the functions, catering for different C-level executives according to their functions they are responsible for. And then we'll dive into the key drivers that are responsible, where you can traverse from one function to another function, how they are correlated, whether they are affecting each other's function, so that at operational level, what decisions can be taken when it comes to the descriptive analysis of your data. So now what we have in place here on the screen is that we have pulled data that has come from disparate sources. When I say disparate, it can be variety in nature, it could be different entities, ERP systems, and this data is for a conglomerate who have the business into different arenas across the regions. They are into food chains, they are into construction, they are into shopping malls. So they wanted to take a bird eye view of how the data has spread across multiple functions, so a CEO can look into key performance indicators which can enhance his decision making. So now when we do this, we also have tickers that are flowing in, which will help you to see the key performance indicators. As I said, this is a conglomerate. You can see multiple companies inside this particular organization, where you can specifically select for any specific organization. And important indicators across the functions, like finance, we have down by minus for 4.3% compared to previous years, and expenses, workforce in terms of members, and whenever you go for the real-time analytics, right, as of data analysis you want to do, it gives you a crisp overview, and project executions as to how much milestones we are able to complete, and how many of our active projects are in what stage, right? So now, without further wait, we will move to the different views of multiple sections. So now the consolidated view of finance, where we have financial overview, balance sheet, P&L, actual versus budget. And then for the workforce, we're talking about HR profiles, and how much workforce risk in the terms of TA and people availability. And finally, we'll speak about the project execution, which will be in turn correlated with all that we'll speak about finance and workforce. So now, switching on to the financial overview, this particular view gives you or any specific C-level executive four important answers, right? Are we growing? Are we profitable? How much is our EBITDA? Whether our margins are stable? Where are we concentrated? Whether it is one specific business giving us the entire revenue that is in turn rolling up to our overall revenue. So we can find out all of that. At the top, you can see key performance indicators, which has its own micro charts, where total revenue, expense, profit, COGS, total asset to EBITDA, right? So now I want to roll it for specific time periods. It last 3 years I'll speak about, which is 2025, 2024, and 23. As we are in 2026, we just wanted to take the immediate available data. So now if you see, for the last available years, if we take each and every parameter, right, we are down by minus 4.27%. What this indicates is it is about the volume pressure and also the pricing compression, right? And then we have a total expense where we have reduced by minus 3.66%. It's looking good. Where there is a cost optimization is happening, but not aggressively enough. Now, when it comes to the net profit, it is about slightly declining, but it also indicates that margin pressure is building. So now it sounds to a CFO how we can take care in terms of the COGS, right? It is aligned with the revenue decline. So COGS reduction is aligned with the revenue decline. So which is saying that volume-based correction after the structural cost efficiency. Then we're talking about total asset. If you talk about the 2023, we were just 6.31. Now we have a phenomenal increase of 452.69 percentage. So this is a powerful card where we can see strengthening of the balance sheet, right? And finally, we have the EBITDA where we wanted to see the how much revenue softenization has happened, which is indicating the operating efficient improvements. Now I will just want to see how my month have been performed across 2025. So this is the structural cycle that we can see where the revenue is softening, cost adjusting, EBITDA relatively protected, and all of this we can tie it together. Now, when we wanted to see how our revenue trend, so it has been cyclical in nature. If you see the up and dip in the in the terms of sinusoidal wave, right? Now, if we want to tie it up with a specific top five revenue generating companies, so here we are basically seeing there are many business functions this conglomerate has. But if we wanted to talk about top five revenue generating companies, I'll just wish to see for Auto Plus spare parts. I can drill down to see how they have been performing in terms of different business. So they are into this AutoZone, used cars, restaurants. So specifically, they are into AutoZone, which is their line of business, which is why we have auto spare parts, and we these are the numbers that is pointing in. So we are heavily dependent on this particular contributor, which means there is a concentration risk which needs to be monitored very closely. So further moving on to our next set of views, which are important in terms of revenue versus expense trend. So let me remove all of these views. And one thing you are able to observe whenever I interact with the dashboard, the quickness or the swiftness of the information that is being rendered onto the dashboards are swifter in nature. Means when you are communicating with a large volume of data that is coming across the functions from multiple ERPs, correlating, there's a lot of breakdown that is happening at the back end. Despite Intellicus is able to fetch you those values with the insights, correlation, and interlinking between multiple dimensions. Now, when we talk about the revenue versus expense, this view shows our 2010 to 2025 long-term financial trajectory, right? So we see a strong growth momentum, and then there was a considerable dip in 2020 due to the effect of pandemic, and there is a brief increase, which is kind of a coping up with the recent marginal pressures. Then we wanted to talk about the operational expenses because this conglomerate, when we talk about the financials, are spread across multiple functions. They have shopping malls. I can just talk about shopping malls, AutoZone. So I can just filter out AutoZone and see how my revenue and expense trend has been. And in terms of OPEX breakdown, this is where our entire operational intensity lies in. So our cost optimization efforts will have the highest impact in terms of all the key performance indicators we talked about. Now, in terms of profitable location, I'm keeping mentioning about the marginal pressure and the concentration risk, because though the data and their business has spread across multiple functions, line of business, and the cities, but Jeddah alone is giving them the most profitable location, right? So I just want to filter for the Jeddah, and I want to drill down to see how different cities have performed, and I will correlate with the corresponding financial parameters or the drivers that I have in place over here. So we have recorded for the last 15 years to see how our financial trajectory has been for each of these locations and what is the contribution that they have. Everywhere you hover, it shows you a crisp overview of how much percentage contribution, and it will show you complete from revenue to the tax implication that has been gone year-wise. So you have a year-wise comparison. Now, what happens when we talk about the financial overview? This gave you a multi-year financial trajectory with various key performance indicators. So let's assess whether this profitability is backed by structural financial strength. So how we'll do that? We'll go to a next dashboard, which is balance sheet and profit and loss. So when we talk about this, there are two questions or answers that we are finding in. Are we over leveraged or is our equity strong? Right? So, which is why we have highlighted two important parameters, which is total assets and total liabilities, backed up by our strong balance sheet for this conglomerate across the companies that you can speak about. So, if you try to speak about any company, multiple functions, it has a clean hierarchical view that you will be able to interact upon. Now, each and for asset and liability, you can see these numbers over here, which will give you a clear understanding that asset base significantly outweighs the liabilities. So what it indicates the strong solvency positioning. Now, when we talk about the LOB wise breakup, it is asset allocation across LOBs and also the liability. Not more to interact over here because it is about the reflection of what we spoke in the financial year overview. These are the numbers which are cascading from that particular overview. Now, while strong structure is important, whether we have a real governance, so are we delivering against the plan, which is what calls me to bring in my actual versus budget dashboard. So now you're able to see how I'm able to swiftly navigate between multiple views and talk about various attributes here. Okay, 1 second. Just a second. So here we are talking about the revenue, COGS, expense, and cash flow, and what is our actual variance and the budget. So it gives you a clear indication of how our budget's actual variation has happened. So this is a critical transition that we are speaking about, which is minus 10%, minus 19% on the cost of goods sold, expenses, and the cash flow is what looks for positive. I can just select for any specific view and view how my actual budgeting has been and what is my actual versus revenue in terms of budgeting. We can take a revenue and expense look upon. So whenever we interact with any specific business function or the LOB, it is just talking about the predictability, cost control, discipline, and the execution gaps. So this talks about the entire financial overview across key drivers that we wanted to mention in the form of actual versus budget and the profit and loss. So now what happens is this can be beneficial for the CEO and we can configure for him to look into these drivers and it is pretty much self-serve in nature. He can add and customize his own views, which is one of the USP that we can bring in whenever the larger, broader aspect is particular, it needs to be addressed. Now, the critical transition that happens from finance to workforce is we have seen how the organization is performing in terms of financial drivers, but whether we have a considerable workforce to execute all of these things. So let me go to the people HR profile where we will speak about for the CHRO or the CEOO, and talking about the capacity strength, succession risk, and organizational scale that we are interacting upon. So now we have a workforce diversity, right? So we have a total member of 4398, proper diversity of male and female of 2155 and 2243, and we have some important indicators highlighting the risk that we need to take in where we have upcoming retirement, immediate, and retirement in 5 years. So we'll understand for each and particular company. This is for the recent year data. Say I want to see for specific company. And I also wanted to see by role-wise headcount, right? I wanted to see how I can. So this particular company is based out of Oman, and I want to see for treasury manager. I can just filter it out, and then see 1 second. I can see it for a specific role-wise headcount and the performance distribution. Because when I talked about a specific company, the roles are different. The reason being, these companies are into different businesses. One of them in shopping malls, one of them in restaurants, constructions, oil and gas reservoirs, which is why the role-wise headcount and the functioning has been different. So now if at all you want to take it as a entire company overview for the CHRO, So it will align with the leadership structure risk, where we have a certain numbers that is helping us to understand, and retirement and succession risk. We are talking about nearly 779 employees are approaching retirement in next 5 years. That is institutional knowledge risk. So if a finance is projecting aggressive growth, workforce succession must align. We have also taken age group wise performance rating distribution. So in terms of five being the highest and one being the lowest, and we have a good scoring in coming in hierarchy wise, where our A grade, B grade, and C in terms of hierarchy employees, we have taken by the alignment with the business unit as well. So when we talk about the performance distribution across the age buckets, we are basically talking about the forward indicator, right? Are we building the future leaders, or we overly dependent on the experience bands? So that also talks about whether a upskill is needed, or filling in those positions are needed, which is heavily governed by the senior people. Now, inside this, we have a talent acquisition and the workforce risk as well. When we talk about talent acquisition, workforce risk, we are basically indicating that this is the growth engine for this CHRO. When I say growth engine, because it talks about your hiring speed and cost, it talks about your pipeline health, salary strategy, and also the geographic hiring efficiency. When I say hiring speed and cost, we have average time to fill, which is 60 days. Average cost of hiring, on an average, we have around $1,300. Total requisitions that we have in place, requests, offer accepted, and average salary offered. So we are taking approximately 60 days to fill roles for critical positions. That's revenue opportunity kind of sitting vacant. So every delayed hire impacts financials directly, which is why we are also looking at our acquisition pipeline or the talent pipeline, where we have applied, screening that has happened, interviewed, offered, and hired. So there are positions where they have received offers, might not have joined, and a variance indicator clearly indicating there is a good linear wave of how our talent acquisition in terms of cost uh, trajectory has come into, and what is our key source performance where we can pitch in more for the employees and key positions that we have to fill in. So, for example, I want to see for LinkedIn how our talent acquisition pipeline comes into place, right? So it is gives you a good overview. And if we talk about what job title with highest salary, cybersecurity specialist, IT applications manager, and the entire hiring efficiency overview. So basically, conversion ratio in our hiring funnel indicate that screening intensity is more. So the real question is, are we optimizing? Are we indicating this position for speed or perfection? Means whether we want to screen it, whether to the detail, or we need higher positions with key skill set, niche skill set. So we need to understand our talent acquisition pipeline, whether we are screening it or stuck in a specific stage for a better purpose. Now, while we have looked into finances and workforce for the entirety, for the entire conglomerate, somewhere we talked about a specific business too. Now we'll also speak about the project execution, right? When we talk about project execution, this is the kind of a like strategy fails because not of planning, sometimes execution gaps as well. So which is why we wanted to see as of now in real time how our project overview or the execution is in place. So many a times what happens is we plan well, we have all the necessary building blocks or the functioning in place, but if our execution is not on par, we may nosedive into our very key projects and the milestones. So we have recorded it for the recent dates. Say, for example, it could be of any particular as of today or any recent date the data is available for. So this can come from your PMO systems, and say for we have a total projects of 341. We are looking at 341 projects, and total companies which are handling these projects is 21. Total milestones 462. Open milestone 355, closed milestones is 107, milestone completion is 23.2 percentage, right? So now when we talk about this, we have a project status, and we are looking at the high priority projects and the low priority projects. If we at all wanted to speak about the milestone breakdown by status, right? Majority, if you see, our delayed and task level milestones is where we have stuck. So roughly 1/3 of our milestones show delay signals, and this acts as an early warning for the delivery risk. Now, if we talk about project initiation trend, it is accelerated in recent times, in recent cycles. So this is an important consideration: is whether a completion velocity or it's scaling at the same rate. Now, when we talk about the company-wise upcoming projects, so this is where we have taken all the notification numbers, how our what projects and how many are in place. So let me maximize this for each of the business function, where we have a project status, whether they are completed, on track. You can easily filter out the data here. So this gives you the entire overview from one system to another system, not having to toggle between multiple views, a single dashboard giving you an entire overview as a single source of truth. Now, eliminating or negating the need of looking at the data in silos for C-level executives. They have hands-on from a novice to the complex level of information. Now, while we have done this, what important is whether we can speak to the underlying data in addition to the comprehensive dashboards, right? So in that case, I want to switch to the dialogues. In dialogues, it will help you to understand. One second, let me just. In addition to dashboards, right, we just saw a conversational analytic layer also can be established in Intellicus, which will bring you the power of AI-driven analytics on large scale of data. You could see the scale of data that we have spoken about across the multiple functions. So what Dialogues can do is it can turn enterprise data into a strategic advantage through conversational intelligence. So now we can converse with multiple data models over here, and make sense out of it, right? A C-level executive can directly speak on his data by asking a natural language question, and he has multiple options to interact. Say, for example, compare revenue versus revenue budget for the year 2025. So it also gives you suggestions when we try to ask a question, and the moment I send, it gave you a immediate overview of saying that this is my revenue and revenue budget. As Anurag was highlighting or was pointing upon, it's just not about the views that it can generate, it also can give you a comprehensive view, summary of what exactly you are looking at. So this is the comprehensive insight and the executive takeaway that you can do. It's just not about the descriptive question and the answer that it can give you on the data from the dashboard, or you also can speak to the underlying data. You also do a RCA, a follow-up question, right? Say which city and line of business, because I want to do a follow-up question, are responsible for the largest negative revenue variance. Because the more descriptive your prompts are, the more it will help you to understand or model to understand what we are exactly trying to understand the or make a question out of it. So I'm asking which line of business, which city has the largest negative revenue variance. So it says that Zedan AutoZone. It gave you a key finding at the executive takeaway. Now I also want to add a new context. I want to get out of that previous scope and say, show me revenue trend by line of business over the last 5 years. it added a new business context. For last 5 years, it is showing you across the line of business. I can just change the way how this is presented. It understands this was the most preferred way of presenting the information. But if you want to change it and show it, you can see how over a year, how my line of business in terms of revenue, it gave you a key patterns, consultations and services, standards and anomalies, means you want to go have outliers, and execution takeaway. Not only just speaks about your information, dialogues of Intellicus can go through series of activities like query execution, in column to mapping, what is your intent, right? You can directly copy this view and make a presentation out of it. And if you want to see what happened at the background, you'll be able to see entire details out of it. Now, I also can do a RCA again for this, saying that which line of business contributed to the revenue decline, just to year, and which departments within it drove the drop. I want to understand this. So it is saying that LOB of this department, revenue change, and what were the main findings, patterns, and insights. It is just not about finance. I can quickly change this model and now converse with my another specific model, which is my projects, right? I can also do that. You just need to change it. Or if your data is having a conformed dimensions, if it is correlated in a specific manner, you also can create a AI space in Intellicus, which will help you to do a cross-domain analysis. So in this case, now the first my first question would be, show me total projects um, by project status and project priority. I'll just execute this. It shows you high and low, and these are my project status. It is generating a summary of this, and it helping me to see the quick overview. And I also can do a RCO on top of this, saying that among high priority projects, which ones are delayed and how many you can go on as many as questions, but this gives you a quick understanding how dialogues can go through multiple data models and understand your intent for the answer that it want to generate. Overdue days for which particular projects, key patterns. Likewise, we can communicate with the other data models as well and show you various understanding, whether it is for the HR, people availability, and also any other business function that you want to interact. Now, when I talk about AI space, the easily it will be able to see what type of um, information that you want to draw. Say, this is a cross-domain analysis, right? There are two different models, show revenue, profit, and ROI by month. I'm specifically asking for a specific time period, or it can be any particular latest year you want to see for the data that you can do. Now I'll show you activities, intent understanding, value to column mapping, relevant semantic models. It spoke and it also understands search from which particular analytics. So this is how a AI space can bring in the data that has come from multiple sources or the disparate sources. Over to you. And this is for today's session. Thanks everyone for joining and for your patient understanding of our product overview. Thank you.
Thank you, Sagar, for a very insightful session. We have a couple of questions from the audience. Anurag, the first one is how long does it actually take to go live? We've heard months from other vendors.
You're very right, Anumya. So a lot of inquiries which come from multiple customers that do you also take months or quarters? So no, that's not case with Intellicus because we do not need to do a lift and shift of raw data from your true sources from ERPs, create a data lake or a data warehouse, and then do the analytics. Okay, so we have a very powerful semantic layer and an unified data engineering utilities, okay, and modules which I talked about. So with our experience, within a span of few weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, we can or we are able to deliver a focused CEO dashboards, and a full enterprise rollout, a BI rollout, takes from a quarter to two, not more than that.
All right. Then we have one other question, Anurag. Is data being replicated in your platform or being queried from respective systems and represented on the dashboards?
So we have both the options available. We support direct query as well to the true data source. And we can also cache the results or even create a materialized, summarized view in Intellicus and then do querying over that. Both options are available.
Yeah. We have another one. How quickly can I get an alert if something goes wrong? For example, say cache falls below a threshold.
Now that is configurable to a real time to a minute level. Okay. And we can even configure the channel, the notification channel. It could be email or a push notification like SMS, WhatsApp, or also on our mobile app. So you can get a live push notification on mobile app as soon as the data crosses a certain threshold. So it could be real time to the configurable or configured interval. We support all.
All right. There's another one. Can we embed Intellicus dashboards inside our own application?
Okay. Yeah, very much. So the dashboards or any other module of Intellicus could be very seamlessly, I mean, it could be seamlessly embedded inside any host application with single sign-on in place. The UI look and feel, color theme could be camouflaged. We do have a rich and comprehensive APIs also, when not only the dashboard, even the insights or the result set could be integrated or could be used by the host application.
And there's one more. How does mobile BI work? Is it a separate app or an application?
Yes. So in case of mobile, I mean, the best part of Intellicus is that we have native mobile app, not just a static representation of dashboard in the web form. Okay. And when I say native, that is for both iOS and Android. So those apps could be used to interact with our dashboards, the same we do in the web application. So you can drill up, drill down, slice and dice, and no need to design dashboards or reports specific for mobile device. So it's all auto responsive, size responsive. So you just design it once and then you can view it on web or as well as on the mobile app.
All right. So we have a couple of more questions which we'll not be able to squeeze in today in the session. We'll get in touch with the respective audience and our team will connect with you over email. All right, that's it from the webinar. I hope you all had a very insightful session. Thank you all for joining. Have a good evening, everyone.